That morning started out like any other. I had just worked Sunday and Monday. I worked as a nurse. I worked 12-hour shifts. So Tuesday I was off. And it was my father's birthday a week later on the 18th. That he lives in Florida. So I was getting his presents ready and packaging them up because I was going to go to the post office. That was one of my errands. And one of my friends called, and I don't watch TV in the morning. And she said, Joyce, turn on the radio, turn on the TV. A plane's hit one of the Twin Towers. So I turned it on. I said, oh, it must be just a little prop plane. I didn't think anything of it. And I shut the TV off and finished getting my stuff ready. And I also had to stop at the local mall to get shin guards for my daughter. It was the first day of field hockey. So I didn't think anything of it. I didn't have the radio on the car. I left at 9:45. The mall is 3 miles away, 2 traffic lights. We live over an hour north of the city, so it's not like living in Long Island or New York. And, got to the mall a little early and went in through Sears because the sporting goods store is right out inside the mall, just outside of Sears, and bought my shin guards, came back out through Sears, and I said, I better just check the TVs up in Sears. So I went up to the upper level where they have sell appliances and TVs, and there were the salesmen and some other customers crowded around the TV, and by then the second plane had hit. And I went, oh, holy shit, excuse me. So I ran out to the car, but I still had to stop at the post office, which was on my way home. Again, our little post office is about the size of a living room. There's only one person in there that works there. And, it was in and out. But when I went in, the postmaster was screaming at me, how dare I stop to drop off a package? The planes have hit. They've closed the bridges and the tunnels and, blah, 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 blah. So P.S. my dad's birthday present took 10 days to get to Florida. And then I got home and I turned on the TV and, just sat there watching for hours. And I feel bad because my kids were in 7th grade and 10th grade. And, I never thought to pick them up from school. But the 7th grader, my daughter, she didn't know what happened. She was in the middle school. They didn't tell them what happened. They put them all in the gym and gathered them there. And I guess they kept them there till the buses, till they were released for the buses. Everything up by us, everybody takes the bus because you're like 4 miles from the school. And my son was in high school, and they turned the radio on. His particular classroom didn't have a TV, and listened to it. And then the rest of the day, he went from class to class and he watched it all on TV. It was kind of like when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, JFK was assassinated. And I was in Catholic grammar school, and we didn't know what happened. And, but the public school kids, they were within walking distance of their school. So they told them, and then they released those kids and they walked home early. But yeah, it was kind of almost like that. So that was, and then the rest of the day, when the kids came home, my daughter said what happened, and I told her, and we were just glued to the TV set. And my husband was away on a golf outing with the guys from his firehouse. So they had gotten word on the golf course. And it was an early start. He had gone there the night before because it was like a 7 a.m. start and a 2-hour drive. So they quickly came back and went to their firehouse. And I think he had the cell phone, and I did hear from him eventually. At that point, we were sharing a cell phone. When after this happened, my husband said, that's it, we have to get our own cell phone. But, you only use cell phones for emergencies. It wasn't like it is today. And my husband was a few numbers away from being promoted to lieutenant, and he had just missed the last class, which was just started. and he would be in the next class. And then couple of days later, he was notified they were making a big class of lieutenants right away. So that Sunday, the 16th, he was promoted, sworn in at I think it's 9 Metro Tech Center in Brooklyn. And originally they weren't going to have families come, but then they said changed it and they could. And Chuck Schumer was there, and Hillary, and Pataki, and everybody, Julianne. Then after the ceremony, we had driven down. So my husband, John, we went to Ground Zero. He was able to park, and we walked through, and it was a sight to see. My kids still remember it. There were tables set up, refreshments, or, socks and shoes. And we ran into Governor Pataki, who isn't hard to miss because he's like 6'5". And we shook his hand and told him we were from Somers, which is practically a neighboring town of Peekskill where he's from. And eventually we left, and we came home through the West Side Highway. And as soon as we were out of the restricted area, the streets were lined with hundreds of people. It was like a parade, like that you would give to the World Series champions. And, with signs and clapping and shouting and cheering. And when we would stop at a light, they would come up to our car with little bags of goodies, socks, candy, things that they had made. And that really stuck with our memory. I had asked my children what they remember, and that's what they remember the most, was how everybody was, it felt like the Canyon of Heroes. And those are my recollections. And, of course, we were worried about my husband. And he did come home, after a few days. And he was pretty traumatized by it. He'd lost a lot of friends. And, I guess the destruction that you see. And anyway, that's about it, Shelley. Anything else?
Well, so what strikes me about your story, Joyce, is that you were probably just feeling so fortunate that your husband hadn't been working on that day, and that instead he was on the golf course.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone from the FDNY then worked on the pile in the months that followed.
Right.
And how would you know then that years later you would ultimately lose your husband because of what happened on 9/11?
It never entered my thought that he would get sick later. My husband was very healthy. He ran, he didn't drink, he never smoked. He used to say he did retire about in 2007, and he used to say, I'm keeping the pension alive, because he watched what he ate, a balanced diet. And when it came time for him to retire, we didn't take the pension option because he was so healthy. I always thought I would go first, and it never dawned on me. And then when he discovered that lump in his neck, I still didn't think anything of it. And, it was quite shocking, because you think you're in the clear after, 9/11. It just really didn't think it would come back and bite you in the butt. It just really was unexpected. And especially, so many years after, 12 years later, to have cancer surface. But, and he had heard of other guys getting sick, but you don't think it's going to be you. And it was really shocking, because my husband's parents were still alive. They didn't pass away till they were in their 90s. And, you just kind of expect longevity. And that didn't happen. So, yeah, I think, he felt cheated, as we all did. But, my husband passed away. He was born in 1952. He was almost 67. It was a month before his 67th birthday. So he got sick when he was just 61, just, a few months after his 61st birthday. So anyway,
Did he ever talk about having any guilt because he was golfing that day instead of, people who weren't there by the grace of God had this tremendous burden of guilt?
Yeah. I don't know if he felt guilt. I think he was a little embarrassed. My husband's very modest. He never advertised that he was a fireman. Yeah, he didn't walk around with the FDNY shirts or his company shirts. Yeah, he just was very low key and kind of modest and unassuming, and he wasn't shy or anything like that. But yeah, it's kind of like my dad was a World War II vet, but he never said anything about it. Because my father quit high school to join World War II, but he was in the tail end, so he never made a big deal of it. He said I was in the very end of it, so he never really talked about it. But John, yeah, he probably felt a little guilty. The biggest job, and he wasn't there for it, golfing, which he was with the other firemen, and that's what they like to do. They had these golf outings, where they'd go. It would be a 2-day thing, 3 rounds of golf, stay at a motel, hotel, or whatever. And he loved doing that. So, at least he was doing something he loved. That he missed the World Trade Center. Yeah, that was terrible what happened that day. Jeez. So.
Is there anything else you want to add, Joyce?
No, I think that's it. Like I said, I don't have anything really riveting, except we were all so shocked. You would never think something like that would happen. And, you think you were safe, and you don't realize how much it would impact you further, down the line, years later. And yeah, it's just a tragic, tragic day that happened. And I always put the TV or the radio on in the morning now, just to, for a few minutes, because, we never put the TV on. And I didn't even put the radio on in the car when I went driving. I just didn't think anything of it. I thought it was just a little plane, no big deal. Not really thinking it through, but more focused on what I had to do that day than realizing what was going on. I feel bad about that. And I feel bad I didn't pick my kids up from school. But anyway, that's about it, Shelley.
And as we all know, 9/11 didn't end on 9/11.
No. Yeah, it went on went on for weeks and
years, because we continue to lose people.
Yeah, and the security, the Homeland Security, and it just changed everything. How how you get on a plane. The TSA, and it really strengthened America. The safeguards that they put through, so that hopefully this will never happen again.
Well,
that
again,
we won't
Joyce,
be attacked like that.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you, Shelley.
And love to the family. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing.